Most of us hear the word Freemason, and we usually think of a band of brothers that stretches across the world, a fraternity of moneyed men who engage in strange rituals and greet each other with a secret handshake. These people belonging to this mysterious nexus believe in a higher power, and together they share secrets and protect each other. And when they meet at the lodge, they do so with the doors closed to the world. What happens at the lodge stays at the lodge. The master leads the ceremony, and what he says will never become public knowledge. The fact Freemasonry is shrouded in so much secrecy does of course elicit us non-Freemason to be curious. So today we'll try to separate the facts from the myth. But let's first go back to the beginning and see how it all got started. What we know as Freemasonry goes back to what were called the guilds of stonemasons and cathedral builders back in the Middle Ages Britain. A guild was kind of an association for certain kinds of artisans or merchants, so you could call them clubs for skilled workers. If you look at documents as far back as the 13th century, you can find mentions of Freemasonry, although the language used is either Latin or Norman French, so it goes back a long way. As you know, a mason is someone who works with stone, and the free part was supposed to signify just that these skilled artisans were not feudally bound, they were free. A potential medieval master mason as a kid would be educated in languages and math, and when in his teens he would learn how to work with stone. Let's remember that building things back then was very important, so learning how to work with stone was seen as a huge deal. As the kid grew into an adult, he would become a journeyman, and once he became a master mason, he would gain a lot of respect. So now you can see why these guilds were respected. In the 17th and 18th centuries, these evolved into modern Freemasonry, and people belonging to this order believed in a higher power and brotherhood, with the Masonic rituals based on the myth of King Solomon's Temple. You can find manuscripts belonging to Freemasonry that talk about the Masons that built this temple. There were lots of manuscripts, and these have been studied since. We won't go into what they all contain, but later they evolved into what are now called Freemasonry constitutions. It's said about 100 such manuscripts still exist, but very few of them contain details of rituals and rites of passage. All you really need to know is that there were lots of different groups of Masons and lots of texts talking about codes of conduct and sometimes rituals. Masons basically joined ceremonies, and members had certain rules to follow based on chivalry. In 1717, the first Grand Lodge was established in England, and after that came more lodges. You could call the Grand Lodge the governing body and lodges branches of that body. What's important to mention is that Freemasonry was not especially a religious order, and it actually at times banged heads with the Roman Catholic Church. As we said, Freemasons believed and still believe in a higher power, but you're not supposed to discuss religion in regular Freemasonry. Talking about politics is also verboten. Also, in short, there was a split in Freemasonry, and some Masons refused to follow the order that Masons must believe in a deity. That order came from the United Grand Lodge of England, and what happened was a Masonry schism, meaning split, and then we got both Continental and Anglo-American Freemasonry. For instance, the latter group doesn't allow political discussion, but the former does. The split was a big issue, and the two groups engaged in rivalry over the years. This was significant, and it's written that this rivalry in part contributed to the rift that started the Mexican Civil War. So there have been splits and disagreements among Freemasons. They are not all alike. Some branches, for instance, allow women to join. And while Freemasonry is global, it's written that Masons in Anglo-Saxon countries were predominantly white Protestants. There are also other branches that don't belong to the official order of Freemasonry, so it's actually quite complicated, and the reported 6 million members don't all follow the same rules. But what are the rules? What do these people do? What's actually the point of becoming a Freemason? If African political leaders and wealthy American businessmen belong to Masonic orders, surely there's something to it. In 2018, the BBC did an interview with a Freemason, although this was a Freemason belonging to a woman's lodge. Her husband was a Mason too. She said there's nothing too strange about it, but she did have to pass 3 Freemasonry degrees to achieve her leading role at the lodge. When you get this 3rd degree, you become a fully fledged Mason. She didn't give her name to the BBC. Well, they didn't print it there, we mean. And she would not discuss what goes down at the ceremonies. Those ceremonies are led by a master, but what he or she says cannot become public knowledge. Not surprisingly, this kind of secrecy leads non-Masons to thinking something really weird must happen, but all she said was that it's like being in a play and you just do your bit. She said there's no backslapping and she doesn't take part in any kind of nepotism, meaning she's not rubbing shoulders with people to get ahead in her line of work. She said this to the BBC. It's a bit like Facebook in that way. You'll come across people you've met in the past, certainly if you've lived in the area for a number of years. We come from all walks of life and professions, but it becomes a network. She did say that the ceremonies are still based on the myth of King Solomon's temple, but refused to say anything else. This wasn't good enough for us at the infographic show, and we wanted to know more. We read that Masons are supposed to follow a certain kind of etiquette, but the problem is these codes of conduct are also kept secret. We found out that Masons are expected to learn about rituals, history, Freemason symbols, and people are supposed to understand how to act as a Mason. You have to give the worshipful master his due respect, and that means knowing where to stand when he's around. You can't just turn up to a lodge with a bottle of beer in hand and start mingling. There are strict rules to follow as to how you should comport yourself. According to one website, it's a bit like school. You have to sit in the right place, wear the right clothes, stand when you speak, and it's considered bad manners to talk while others are talking. When the master bangs that gavel, you must obey. If you don't, it's said to be a massive discourtesy. Don't turn your back on this guy when he speaks, and some lodges will have a salute you give to him. It sounds strict, and it is. You must also have good posture, or try to have. And don't go around telling stories about your blocked toilet bowl. No off-color stories, we're told. And it goes without saying that your phone should not start beeping during the ceremony. You will know all this, of course, because you've read the codes of conduct, and from the day you go to your first meeting, you'll be following these codes as you become an entered apprentice, a fellow craft, and in the end, a master mason. Part of these meetings will include giving degrees to members who have climbed a ranking. This we know for sure. It's said that this graduation-type ceremony is one of the biggest reasons they have ceremonies. Yes, people listen to the master and they follow the rules and they say hello to their Mason buddies, but it seems many of the meetings are about giving degrees and telling people how to act when this happens. One person wrote that these ceremonies are basically an exercise in administration. He wrote, "Deep and unfettered conversations on philosophy, science, arts, society, psychology, governance, foundational texts are very rare these days, especially in the US and Canada." Another Mason wrote that when he meets, usually the start includes talking about the last meeting and the minutes of that meeting. They might then discuss older members and new members, or just talk about things that need to be paid for, such as getting a new roof. He wrote this, "Often there are various announcements of upcoming events, discussion of community projects, or planning for a future activity. Some meetings are reserved for ceremonies, such as admitting a new brother or advancing one to a higher degree. Others might honor members who have a substantial history of service in the Masons. Still, other meetings may have an educational presentation. In my jurisdiction, Connecticut, the Grand Lodge requires every meeting to have at least some component of Masonic education." As we said, he wrote that during these ceremonies they must follow strict codes of conduct, so it's a rather serious affair. He said at the end of this serious part though, there are refreshments and people chat more informally. It all sounds a bit like a cross between a business meeting and a graduation, and perhaps at times a TEDx, just with funny clothes and upright postures. So why is this all secret? Another Freemason said when they make a member of the public a Freemason during a ritual, it's supposed to be a secret. It's hardly the biggest secret in the world. He said yes, they don't publish this ritual, but who publishes private business meetings? Those rituals can change based on the lodge, but in the end, the ceremony is about these old codes of conduct and what it means to be a Freemason. It's not as if babies are being sacrificed for the great higher power or members engage in orgiastic behavior while howling like banshees under a blood moon. You just need to know the secret codes to get in, like entering a combination code on a lock. Every Freemason we found online said the same thing. It's business, graduation, talking about members, and bringing in new members. You've just got to follow protocols. Remember, stand up straight, listen to the master, and don't let your Kanye West and Lil Pump ringtone go off during the ceremony. One journalist who interviewed a Freemason in the UK said, when he entered the lodge, it was full of Freemasonry symbols. He was told that during meetings, people have to stand in the correct place. It's important where you stand in relation to the master. He was told that new Masons are given the rules, learn the codes, and are told to recognize another Mason when not in a meeting. This might not always be a secret handshake, but it's kept a secret. If you are a Mason and you talk about this to other non-Masons, you will likely be thrown out of the order. Another journalist who'd interviewed a Freemason was told there are not just secret ways to know who is a Mason, but each degree of Freemasonry has its own password. This was in his lodge at least. When asked if anything weird went on, the Mason said no, adding, "We had a man who joined our lodge. He took the first degree and was disappointed that there was nothing happening in the way of anything sinister, and he left." He also said, "Here in Ireland, we have a strict constitution religion which we follow closely. I heard that there's a group of people in Ireland who are going into the rituals more deeply, but I don't think there's anything untoward going on there. He said at his lodge it's about dressing up, doing some rituals, and then having a good old chat. He said where he goes, if you want to join, you'll have to be interviewed, have a background check, and then it goes to the vote using black and white beans. If they like
I'm pretty good. I just wanted to thank you again for agreeing to do this interview. I understand what doing this interview could cost you, so I'll do my best to protect your identity, all right?
All right.
If at any time I ask you anything you don't feel like answering, you don't have to answer.
Okay, understood.
The first question I'd like to ask you is, how did you become aware of the Freemasons?
Started back in 2007, where I was doing some research and seen that the fraternal order did a lot of good for the community.
Okay. By good for the community, can you elaborate on that?
Food drives, cancer walks, AIDS walks, giveaways to the children for school. Just a lot. I wanted to be a part of that.
Now, many people have different reasons on why they wanted to become a Mason. What was your reason for becoming a Mason?
Well, to be honest, I wanted to know what it really was to be a Mason. I wanted to know the truth, the secrets. I wanted to see what it really was. What was such a big secret about? What the community work was about. So I decided to keep doing my research and further my knowledge, and eventually I joined up.
Okay. Can you explain the process of you joining? What did you have to do to join, and who can join the Freemasons?
Well, I won't go too much into detail on that, but what I would say is you have to be sponsored by a Master Mason in order to join the lodge. And as far as the process, I can't go too much into detail on that, but I would say that you don't see what's going on.
By process, I mean, if a person wants to become a Mason, what process would they have to take to become a Freemason?
You would have to be sponsored by a master of the lodge, a Master Mason. You go through a series of background checks, home visits, and if they feel that you're a right candidate, you'll be accepted into the lodge.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
When you were accepted, how were you initiated? And if you can and feel safe, please go into details on how the initiation went.
I don't feel comfortable answering that question.
All right. No worries. Can I ask you how you felt while you were being initiated, if you feel comfortable answering that?
Sure. Felt a little excited. I would say lost. But overall, I was good. It wasn't anything that some people would think it would turn out to be, but it was a good thing. It wasn't bad at all.
Can you please explain the ranking system? How does a Mason go up in degree?
Well, you would have to go through your rituals, your degrees. As first, you will start off as an apprentice. Then you'll go to the second degree, which would be a fellow craft, and then the third degree, which is master. From then on, you will move up.
And what degree Mason are you? And how long did it take you to get there?
I'm a master, and it took me about a year.
What have you learned since being a Mason? And in your opinion, is it truly worth being a Mason?
Well, I learned a lot. There's a lot that I haven't learned because there's a lot of stuff that me as a Master Mason wouldn't know that the Knights Templars know, or the Shriners, or, as you go up, you learn more. And even those guys still don't know. You learn something new every single day of being a Freemason.
All right, very interesting. Many presidents and big politicians, even rappers, have been Masons. Many people believe that by joining the Masons, they get special privileges. Do you feel like you get any special privileges from being a Mason?
Oh, yeah, definitely, especially if it's among other brothers.
Can you explain what you mean by that? Explain one of those privileges?
Okay. Sure. Let me go. Let's say you have a profession.
Yes.
And it's the profession you want is, let's say you're a carpenter, all right? Let's just give an example. Police officer, whatever. We have lodges that are based on that profession. You can go to a lodge full of contractors. You can go to a lodge full of police officers. And from then on, you will meet these people who will help you further.
So basically, you're saying that once you become a Mason, the other Masons that are in the fraternity basically propel you to a higher position in that company because of your membership.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Do you believe that the Masons shaped the United States? How much power would you say the Freemasons have?
We have it's a lot of power in the Freemasons, and I would say we did shape the world. In my personal opinion, yes.
By the world, like their power expands further than just England and America?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, that's very interesting. If you've seen my channel, then you already know that I pointed out that the Masons appear to worship the devil. Would you say that the Masons worship the devil, or there is Masons that worship the devil?
I would say that there's Masons that worship the devil, but I wouldn't say that we worship the devil as a fraternity, no.
Can you expand on that? A lot of the symbolism and the artifacts that the Masons use have been linked to paganism and Satanism.
Well, when you join up, you have to believe in a God, okay? Now, what God you choose to worship, we have no control over that, you understand?
Yeah.
If you're a Satanist or you're a Catholic, Christian, as long as you believe in a God, you can join the lodge.
What would you say is the purpose of Freemasonry?
To make good men into better men.
Can you expand on that? Because that's kind of like the go-to answer that most Masons will give. In what way do you feel that they make you a better man? What do they give you? What opportunity or what knowledge do that they provide you? You don't have to go into detail on the knowledge.
Well, I would say this. Listen, knowledge is key, correct?
Yes.
Okay, now, someone with knowledge and a strong fraternal organization at the Freemasons behind him, you have no choice but to become a better man, you understand me? You're surrounded by good men who are doing things and putting you into these things as far as food drives, helping out the homeless, helping out the children, helping out your community. And that's what I've learned as far as being a Mason, you know?
Okay. Many people believe that the Masons have a secret goal of a New World Order. Would you say the Masons are behind the New World Order?
I'm going to be able to answer that question for you.
All right. In my research over the years, I have seen a strong connection between the Masons and the Illuminati. Are the Freemasons in any way associated with the Illuminati?
To my knowledge, no.
All right. What I've also learned during my research on Freemasonry was that the Freemasons participated in rituals. Have you ever participated in any rituals?
Yes.
Why do you think the Masons participate in these rituals?
Well, when you say rituals, you're probably thinking something, evil or something. Like there's some lodges where they fake lodges, we call them clandestine, where they would have smoke and people wearing black robes and but it's not really like that. You understand? Rituals are something we do to move up.
Okay. And can you explain the experience of when you're doing these rituals? How do you feel? What feeling do you get while you're performing these rituals?
It can be a little confusing sometimes. I would say that you have to pay very close attention and listen very well. Let's just say that.
Hip-hop culture seems to embrace Freemasonry. Would you say rappers like Jay-Z and Kanye West are Freemason? And if so, which rappers do you think are Freemasons?
I know Rick Ross is a Mason. There's a bunch of rappers who are Masons, to be honest. Like Ashton Kutcher is a Mason. He's an actor. You have the guy from American Idol, the rude guy, Randy. I think not Randy. Simon. He's a Freemason. There's a bunch of people in the industry of music, acting in Hollywood, who are Freemasons.
So you can say that the Freemasons have a strong presence in the music industry, correct?
We have a presence there. Yes, we do. I'm not going to say strong, but we definitely have a presence.
During Freemasons' secret meetings, what act?
Once upon a time, it was a great thing to have talent. It is almost inevitable that your talent absolutely means nothing. You see, talent was all you needed at one given time before man put his spell on a thing called entertainment. Nowadays, it's a bit demonic. Well, the word entertainment itself is demonic. Let me explain this. Marriage that is proposed to you. But don't think it's about a woman. It's about a soul for sale. Yes, that's right. Because your soul is married to the game. The game is the music business, entertainment, sports, whatever. See, they're going to shake your hand. But what you don't understand is you're being welcomed to fame and lies. And there's always a guy in a nice suit to come around that's clean shaved and tell you the do's and don'ts just to see where your head's at. And he's going to advise you of a letter that's will be arriving, but he probably want to hand it to you because it's personal. Why is it personal? Because the letter is going to be an opportunity for you, but it's not any kind of letter or contract. It's a contract of blood offering. That's right. They want you to sign your name in blood because you have been chosen by the brotherhood. And without hesitation, you sign. And you're so ecstatic. Your name is all over MTV, BET. You're excited. But you're not done. Because see, after that, they're going to invite you to the lodge. And during the lodge presentation, they're going to tell you the do's and don'ts. They're going to tell you to keep your mouth shut. And if you should adhere to this and tell anyone the secrets, your tongue could be removed, your eyes could be gouged, or your neck could be slit. So, what do? You leave out of that with a bonus check. But to remind you, as you walking out the door, beware, all ye who enters.
Put your hands together.
Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, and I have not charity, I am become as sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have faith so that I could remove mountains and have no charity, I am nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, though I give my body to be burned and have not charity, it profits me nothing. Oh, 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 oh. When I was a child, I spent as a child. I understood as a child and thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. For now we see through a glass, darkly but then face to face. Now I know in my heart. But then, sure I know, even so also I am known. And now I derive faith, hope, charity, these three. But the greatest of all these is charity. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Angels, Yahweh. Have you ever wondered why they have tape over the mouth when you see an ad or a magazine? Well, they're explaining to the person who's looking, hush, never tell. Now, most people in the real world will never understand this. The red and blue eyes also go back to the satanic world of Satanism. We're not making these things up, we're just bringing them out. You see ads like this all the time with the one eye, and then you have females to put the hair in the eye, starting with Aaliyah. Well, they're explaining about the all-seeing eye. Goes back to Egyptology, gods, and Osiris's and Kabbalahs. You have no idea what you're doing, but you're mimicking something very satanic and evil. I don't know how many times when I was coming up, I saw a finger over the lips. I just thought that was being cute for be quiet. But in the world of entertainment, it means never tell the secrets. Now our black people have adopted these rituals because they want to be like their counterparts. Yes, I said counterparts because this was never for us. We was already upright, righteous folks. We led the way, but now we're slipped because we want to be a part of this world called America's, and we want to be rich. To be rich, you have to believe in a dream. And once they can get you believe in a dream, man, it's all downhill. The book of the Apocrypha tells us dreams are for fools. But you can't wait to stand in line for the American Idol, X Factor, America Has Talent. It's all just hoorah. You had no idea that it's about really satanicism, signing your name in blood. And for the women, they use you so bad, you have no idea what they're going to do to you once you get behind the scenes. Wow. There's usually about 4 different stages before you're getting signed. Now, this is a beautiful sister, right? Usually, this is how you look when you first get signed. You look ecstatic, refreshing. After about a year, you turn into this. Your face starts to change because your soul is being sucked out of you. Now, you don't notice this at all because you're trying to keep up with them. You think it's their fashion style, but really it's what they endure when they sign with the industry. As they go on, and 1 year becomes 2 and 3 becomes 4, their soul is totally gone. When they look in the mirror, they can see things you don't see. They see demons, like Whitney Houston saw demons. But to the public, they look like this. And you notice every year they look more deranged. They look more hard. They look more spaced out. Look at Nicki Minaj. This fits her like a glove. You had no idea these transitions are what they're going through because they sold their soul. Who is this walking through the airport? None other than Prince Roger Nelson. Check out his earth sandals. My wife got the same pair. You can't tell me this man ain't a flaming sissy. Anyways, we need to explain why this man is doing a lot of tours overseas. You see, the truth of the matter is, there's a lot of righteous folks overseas. And in this tour, he's trying to hoodwink you. We'll explain. Well, when he goes overseas to tour, he brings the all-seeing eye. And what most folks don't understand, those lines that you see in the seeing eye, they're subliminal. They put you in spells. You ever came out of a concert and felt high and kind of had lightheaded? Well, you've been on subliminal because the average person knows nothing about righteousness and they have no idea about the scriptures. So when you are empty and have no light, it's easy for spirits to take you over. Prince is a demonic Jehovah devil set up by design. What a lot of people don't understand is that Jimi Hendrix was extremely talented, but never gave in to the brotherhood, never signed his name in blood, nor did he accept the oath. Jimmy just was a man who loved to play music. He signed with anybody who had a contract, something that his manager hated about him, and his manager also had him executed. You see, Jimmy did not accept the powers that be, so they put a tube down his throat and forced alcohol into his system, causing alcohol poisoning, making it look like he gurgitated off his own vomit when they killed him because he wouldn't accept the brotherhood. Laid his body on his side and put a bottle of wine next to it and said, well, he did it to himself. Some of his closest mentors who came to the funeral, as Miles Davis, knew the truth. Janis Joplin also knew the truth too. She also paid for her life because she was getting ready to expose why Jimmy was killed. So they took her life. We'll explain her clip as it's coming up. You notice how they're carrying Jimmy's coffin, or should we say casket, because Jimmy wasn't part of the brotherhood. We're also going to explain as the film rolls, there's a different level of sacrifice. Whenever you see a casket on the shoulders of a man who's carrying you out, you will sacrifice to the brotherhood. We'll explain that as the film continues. Jimi Hendrix was a brother who just loved playing music. That was it. They killed him because he wouldn't accept the oath or the traditions of the brotherhood. And that's just the honest God truth. Jimi Hendrix was a brother who never accepted Satan's world. Janis Joplin was very close-knit friends with Jimi Hendrix. She also knew that Jimmy did not take his own life as far as choking on vomit after drinking. She knew that Jimmy was alcohol poisoned by his former manager, who did not like Jimmy because Jimmy had a bad habit of signing with anyone with a recording label, and he did not accept the oath. Janis was talking about this among fellow musicians whom she could not express enough to. Meanwhile, they would go behind her back and tell Jimi Hendrix's former manager what Janis was talking about. So Janis was getting prepared in 1970 for a concert in a hotel. As they went to check on her, the goons have already been in her room and gave her an overdose of heroin. Janis Joplin was getting ready to blow the whistle on Jimi Hendrix's death, and they could not have that, so they killed her. No one knew why someone wanted to kill Otis Reddy. As his body lies slumped in the pier where the fishermen fish, they had to hook line his body out the water, as you see here. Otis was beaten to death because he and James Brown was getting ready to orchestrate a distribution deal for black music. It's the same thing Damon Dash did with Suge Knight, and they took the riches. Well, back in those days, this thing was unheard of, and still today. So they killed him. They beat him. Now you're probably asking yourself, why not James Brown too? Because they felt like James Brown would be more profitable. So they made James a deal. James accepted the oath. Otis Reddy was a big man, so they couldn't come to him by themselves. They came with a few people. They caught him off guard, they beat him to death and threw him in the pier. James Brown lay motionless into the funeral because James knew why they took his friend's life. When they made James a deal, he did not back down, nor did he think about doing a distribution deal ever again. James took the oath, and he signed with the Brotherhood. Blood, that is. Meanwhile, Otis had his funeral, and you notice they carrying his casket by the waist, indicating that he was not of Brotherhood, nor did he sign his name in blood, nor was his life a sacrifice for anyone in the industry. But James Brown signed over his life to fulfill the legacy of the Brotherhood. Now, after James accepted the oath and accepted the Brotherhood, they let him rub elbows with none other than Al Sharpton. See, Al Sharpton gave in a long time ago. His job was to orchestrate to James about the BSing of the NAACP, the Black Caucus, so on and so forth. James Brown was shocked to hear the news, but nevertheless, James played the game and he played it well. Whenever there was an event of a rioting, of anything that was unjustified to blacks, they would call James to have a concert. So when you hear the song, Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud, you can only wonder, did he really mean it? Or was it a song to fulfill the Brotherhood, to calm and ease the minds of black folk? I'll let that ponder while you guys think about what was just said. So when you hear the song, Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud, do it do you justice? Did you really get it? Some of you had no idea why James made that record. Now, if it's sincere, that's a great thing. But the song was used to calm the black folks down. So was James, because he accepted the oath of the Brotherhood. Whenever they have a situation that when black folks were being slaughtered in the streets, they called trumpet players, musicians, Harry Belafonte, Stevie Wonder, and they still do that today. That's why our people look for idolaters to solve our problems. These are just men in sheep clothing. James was a bad musician. He was a bad man when it came to music and dancing, but that's about all. We're not here to downplay it. We're only here to tell you the truth, that James was here to dumbfound you with his music. He never told you the truth. He was part of the Brotherhood. After he saw his friend die brutally, James got with the program. And when he's had a change of heart, they started making mockery of him. They started saying he was drunk. They started saying he was on this, he was on that. And James and Michael both knew the truth, what they done. They talked about it quite often, getting out, but they knew they couldn't. You can only blood out once you accept the oath. But some type, some way, they believed they could tell the people what was going on. James was the first they took in out to make Michael get back into gear. But it didn't work. As James lay motionless, they called his friend, his mentor, who gave him the ropes to begin with, Al Sharpton. Why did they call Al Sharpton? Because they wanted Al Sharpton to fulfill the role of an usher who cares about a human life to black folk. But when Al Sharpton got the news why they wanted him really there, to show support for the Brotherhood, Al Sharpton didn't hesitate. Al Sharpton knows this game and he knows it well. He played it better than any football player. He sits next to the coffin with his hands in a pyramid, letting his Brotherhood know, I'm here with James, but I'm not about the black and proud. I'm only here to fulfill a legacy, to make our people feel comfortable. I totally understand my role. Isn't that something? A man that sits before you, who's your mentor, and actually is a devil in sheep clothing. This man meant James Brown no good from the moment he met him. He was just using James to prolong his own life. Godfather Saul, James Brown's son-in-law, Darren Chip Lamar, shot and killed. Why is that? You see, Darren knew the truth. He knew that his stepfather did not die of a cardiac arrest. James Brown was poisoned, and Darren was going to tell the truth. Investigators said that the shooter was waiting for Lamar, the neighborhood where Lamar lived in his gated community. When he drove up to park his car in the garage, he was confronted. An altercation of some sort took place. That's when the victim was shot multiple times, said police officer Eric Swartz. I think it was somebody that knew him, Swartz said. The witness said Lamar then got into a car and drove 4 miles to Northside Hospital, where he died. CBS 46 talked with Lamar in January 2007, only weeks after James Brown died Christmas Day 2006. Lamar said he felt his father-in-law's death was suspicious. There's not a bone in my body that believes my father-in-law died from congestive heart failure, Lamar said. Lamar questions Brown's death because there was no autopsy. That is genius, because the Illuminati, who are the music industry, Clyde Davis and all the rest of them, but Clyde Davis being the ringleader of black entertainment, gives orders to cover up everything. You understand? We'll talk more as we go along the way what Clyde Davis is orchestrating. See, James Brown was taken out because he was getting tired. And as they get tired, they start telling. And they can't risk the fact that these celebrities will tell the truth on what they really do in the industry. Sam Cooke lie motionless, slumped over, in a cheap motel room. They tell you that Sam Cooke died because he was trying to chase a prostitute into the manager's office to get his money that he felt like she'd taken from him. That is all hogwash. Sam Cooke was killed for his publishings. They came to Sam Cooke on several occasions to make a deal with him, to try to get him the reason to accept the brotherhood and come on in like everyone else. Sam said, no, I'm my own man. I own my own publishing. Sam Cooke was beaten to death. His blood, if you look to the left shoulder, is really trickling with blood from his head. They took an angle shot to make it look like he died from a gunshot wound. He died from trauma to the head. Sam Cooke's head was totally open. This also can be found in the book of Etta James. Beaten to death by gangsters, because he wouldn't comply, much like Jimi Hendrix. But instead of giving him a drug overdose, they beat him down. The blood was dripping so bad it dripped all down his knee. Sam Cooke didn't comply with the powers that be. It was unheard of for a man to own his own publishings and own his own masters. So for this, Sam Cooke paid with his life. The beautiful thing is Sam Cooke was very spiritual. So let's hope the Most High have his soul asleep into judgment, because he never took the oath and he never sold his soul, nor did he write his name in blood. Sam Cooke is lying in there motionless so the people can see him in a glass casket. Sam Cooke's life was taken as an example of what they tell you you cannot do. They want to totally control you. They want to do everything to you and not for you. This is a lesson to be learned about the so-called industry. Luther Vandross, who was an exceptional singer, could sing anything. So why did he die so sudden? See, after Luther had a stroke, the industry felt like, hey, we have no more use for him. Remember what Chaka Khan said, you're worth more dead than alive. So the order went out. Now, to prove to you that Luther was an order of an oath of brotherhood, we're going to show you his funeral casket as the slides continue. Luther Vandross sold out big time, wrote his name in blood. And isn't it interesting? At all funerals, they call the same trumpet players, the same musicians, the Dionne Warwicks, the Stevie Wonders, the Alicia Keys, the Patti LaBelle's. All these people have signed their name in blood. Did you know that? These folks are so wicked, they put the W in wicked. Talking about Luther, to let us know that he was our blood sacrifice for the industry. Remember I told you earlier about the caskets. Whenever they put a casket on top of the shoulders and cross the hands like they do, this is a clear indication that his life was a sacrifice for the industry. There's levels of sacrificing. Luther didn't sacrifice for someone to go up in the industry. He was sacrificed for the purpose of the industry so they can make millions. And they did. From the moment he died, all his greatest hits started to sell. And everything he didn't put out on his own, they made masters of it. This is what it's about, the brotherhood. Pay close attention to the casket on the shoulder.